Welcome to this new season of Business Talk, Owning It with Sage, and using the account tools that Sage provides. Small business owners can see and understand their business better. They can make better decisions and they can provide better outcomes for customers and staff. And that really is what all businesses should be striving for in this pandemic environment, where if you are still in business, you can count yourself quite lucky. So it is now about how we rebuild and we grow back better. And I asked one of the top business advisors around the other day what the digital tool he thinks small businesses, in fact, any business, needs more than any other to master, to remain relevant in a post-COVID world. And he said, without hesitation, it's the cloud. And someone who knows this intimately is PJ Bishop, Sage's Vice President for Partners, Accountants and Alliances for Africa and the Middle East at Sage. PJ, welcome to the show. Just as we look and survey the impact that COVID has had on all businesses, it really has been transformative. How has it impacted Sage at an operational level?
Thank you, Michael. From a Sage perspective, overnight, we pretty much had to mobilize all our colleagues across Africa and Middle East, and even to the extent of actually closing physical branches because the need there did not exist. And also understanding that the type of work we do and the business we're in, I'm sitting in the only remaining office, physical land or physical brick and mortar office in Johannesburg here that actually runs the whole region. And if you look at the efficiencies and the items that have come from this pandemic, it's been rather interesting to say the least. And the impact on Sage has obviously affected business in terms of revenues, and obviously seeing that the smaller business that we support, that we want to thrive or want to allow them to thrive, have been impacted. We ourselves have seen the adoption of cloud, and we actually have a solution to our legacy desktop customers to actually have a destination into the cloud from our various small segment products, Sage Business Cloud Accounting, Sage Business Cloud Payroll, as well as our medium segment or larger products, which is your Sage Intacct and your Sage X3 for your larger distribution, manufacturing, and customers.
Yeah, I've certainly found that the pandemic has humanized us. We've got to know our colleagues inside living areas and the little kids pulling the slime out of their hair, or the dog that you become quite friendly with through Zoom and Teams meetings. Now, Sage recently launched the Sage Business Cloud Marketplace in South Africa just the other day. It's a very exciting development for small business. And as we know, Sage is the leading supplier of accounting and payroll and other solutions to SMEs globally. Just tell me a little bit more about this service and what it entails.
So let me take, for example, we've got your core accounting system, and it means nothing without the peripherals around it, your point of sale systems, your payroll that feeds into it, your time and attendance systems in terms of how you manage your employees' time and attendance. So the marketplace is one central area where our independent software vendors can actually co-develop products around our solution and offer it to the market. So there's a benefit to our customers. It becomes an extension of them in their workplace, in their business processes, and so forth. It helps our business partners build their businesses and create a new opportunity for them to actually create these niche applications around the core accounting system or payroll systems. And then obviously the total cost and the value across the board for business partners, customers, and for Sage and the industry, shortening that time to market, shortening that implementation time, and not having this perception of brain surgery and not to actually go and touch any legacy systems in businesses.
Yeah, and I think that's why so many small businesses in particular, if you look at the surveys, have been to this point quite reticent to dip their toes into the cloud. But it's a trend that has certainly speeded up thanks to COVID. If you look at the target market of this service, who is the target market in South Africa?
So the target market specifically that Sage focuses on is the small businesses, which that's your dreamers, your entrepreneurs, and your accountants who provide services for these individuals. And then we move up into the stack onto the medium to large segment. And in that medium segment, you have your true businesses that actually need a solution to create, to eliminate the tactical processing tasks and create more strategic leaders in the businesses by moving their roles into this to a new type of role. So COVID is actually providing more opportunities for your tactical operational type person on the ground to actually let them have the availability, the live information at their fingertips to make decisions and actually ensure that their businesses can be quite relevant and survive, especially as COVID is an example, at the speed of light to ensure that they adapt.
Yeah. Business resilience, I think, has been absolutely critical at this time. And all the studies that have been conducted by the big management consulting firms around the country have demonstrated that the greater flexibility, the greater resilience businesses have displayed, the more likely they've been to be survivors from what is a once in a generation shock, where supply chains were shut down, where your routes to market were shut down, where your consumers were locked down. It just really was a shock to the business community like no other. When you look at some of the benefits for business to use services like the cloud marketplace in the cloud, what are the practical sort of benefits for small businesses to gain from services like this?
So the obvious ones would be your online live information at your fingertips. Other items that are sort of rolling out from this accelerated pace at which we've changed and how businesses need to adopt these changes is around what you didn't need 12 months ago, as an example. So businesses didn't need to work from home. You didn't need to run your payroll from a remote location. You didn't need to run your reorder systems or your stock control systems from a remote base wherever you're sitting. You didn't need AI or robotics to automate these processes because you had humans on the ground doing these activities. Now, this has obviously been replaced by specific automations, integrations, and the cloud is the perfect platform to provide that. So the benefits would be on time, real time, all the time, availability of the technology, and then using different platforms instead of full-blown implementations end-to-end that take 4 to 5 years from a legacy perspective are added on. And I always use the Lego analogy. You've got your Lego bits, and then you can basically add on to them, and then the whole, again, the term, the individual part, the whole is greater than the individual parts, but once it's together, it's an actual solution, and it evolves like that. And the cloud is one of those platforms that you can actually build this architecture around.
And what I like about it, you mentioned it earlier, the fact that it plugs into these independent software vendors. So you're allowing these third-party vendors to come and interface in the cloud and in the environment that you've created and design specific solutions that can be specific to a particular sector or a particular company as well. And I think it's that kind of flexibility that businesses must be looking for more than ever, thanks to COVID.
Most definitely. And the concern initially, and I'm talking about only 24 to 36 months ago, by independent software vendors was to share IP. It was unheard of to share your IP. Now, having a platform for these independent software vendors to scale, to have it available to the entire market, and to obviously not reinvent the wheel every time they have a new problem to solve. So you mentioned, in a specific vertical and so forth. Last year, this time in Orlando, they were actually predicting how we're actually going to dive into sub-verticals and how the cloud can dive into these sub-verticals. And a month later, everyone in lockdown, and these sub-verticals started appearing, and the needs for these independent software vendors to plug these gaps from a core accounting system to all the different operational and process items around it occurred. And this is, again, an opportunity, a new industry that sort of just boomed from the pandemic.
Now, a lot of the surveys I read, there's one by Arthur Goldstock of Worldwide Works, goes out there, talks to small businesses and says, right, now, where are you on your digital transformation journey? And it's surprising how few businesses have websites, let alone are moving into the cloud. What are you actually seeing in the South African environment with regards to small businesses now embracing the cloud? And if you're a small business out there who hasn't moved to the cloud yet, why should you be considering doing it now?
Okay, so initially, we had a resistance to move to the cloud because of security issues, concern about connectivity, and so forth. With the, let's call it the catalyst being COVID, and the individual businesses needing to make a plan B, they were almost forced to actually tinker with this idea of using cloud technology. And once you start using it and understanding it, you soon realize that your desktop legacy systems, which Sage has been successful with over the last 30 years, is almost redundant. And there needs to be that path or that destination product that you go to, which is a cloud product. So in the Sage context, in the Sage environment, why would you move to a solid, let's say, for example, like your good old Sage Pastel that everyone knows, or your VIP payroll that everyone knows, it's a desktop product? Well, you can use them, but you won't be able to access them remotely from anywhere. So the actual lift and shift into the cloud is easier. Again, it's not a difficult move. In our small segments and our medium segments, it's how people have reinvented their businesses to actually adopt these changes and actually ensure that these solutions actually help them and it's not interfering with their business practices that they're so used to doing on premise through a server and totally reliant on these massive chunky bits of tin in a cupboard somewhere with a huge IT infrastructure team behind it.
Yeah, that legacy architecture really it speaks to almost the way we used to consume content via Betamax, and then moving to CD, and now doing everything digitally and streamed, and you've got all the music that you can ever hope to want in the palm of your hand via a Spotify or a YouTube music. I mean, it's just the way the world is moving. I was chatting to Paul Morley of Nedbank, and Nedbank were one of the early adopters into the cloud space. Big business, moving that kind of system with the regulatory challenges that they've got. They took a bold leap, and he had to weigh up the costs and benefits. As a small business, if you're approaching this, where do you even start? I mean, what are the sorts of tools that you should be considering to help you on your cloud journey? Because I think very often businesses can be put off because it seems a little bit too daunting.
So in a cloud environment, so the first initial benefit is you don't have the actual real security risks of having an individual on the ground knowing passwords, access to certain emails, access to certain financial systems. The POPI Act and the GDPR in the greater the UK and Europe, these are the quick benefits. So the first thing to look at is, where does your data reside? How can you access it? Should you need to do a process end to end from let's say, for example, an accounting transaction? How does it work and where does it actually sit? So understanding where that is quite simple. Every user knows that it's either on your laptop and it's on your hard drive and you maybe back it up now and then, which could be risky, or it's sitting on a server where you actually need to go and access. Looking at now, the next step is looking at our Sage Business Cloud Accounting, which covers all those fundamental areas. It's at a low cost, it's at a quick implementation, and it provides you that platform to plug in various independent software vendors through our marketplace to ensure that you tick all the boxes of all the different areas. And what's been quite interesting is the actual attach rate of these additional ISVs to a core product has increased dramatically, because overnight, your business owners have become these business analysts and trying to understand their businesses better. And obviously, these solutions are sparking or planting seeds in terms of understanding their business better and what can they do better. And obviously, what should they be looking at as additional plugins or additions to their core accounting or payroll systems.
Yeah, those, and I come back to that earlier point, the fact that the IP game has changed. And there's now a healthy sense of sort of pre-competitive collaboration. It's not just about, this is my IP, I'm not going to share it. It's opened up this world of apps to businesses that helps you with your competitiveness. And at the end of the day, I think if you're a consumer-facing business, your consumers are judging you against some of the best service that they're getting from some of the biggest businesses out there. And they're all on the cloud making use of these. So if you're not, you're being left behind effectively. So it is a war of attrition out there when it comes to getting out on the cloud. Just from a tools perspective, Are there one or two tools that readily spring to mind that make the transition from clunky old architecture to lift and shift off-prem easier? What are some of the interesting tools out there?
So around your Sage Business Cloud accounting, we have conversion tools. We've got third-party customers. Cloud Converters, one of them, who basically will take your legacy data in whatever system it's residing in, and it won't necessarily just be a Sage system. It might be one of these businesses who unfortunately haven't lasted during this pandemic, and we will move it into the cloud. They will move it into the cloud for you, so the transition is quick and easy. I think additionally to the actual tools per se, I think with regards to your output that you require, a lot of businesses have now realized that the tools they need as an output item, for example, a business intelligence or a reporting type tool that they plug onto the end, never existed in your previous product. You were just happy with what reports or whatever information or output came from them. Now businesses are actually asking for this to be live, to be available on your smartwatch, on your phone, and like you say, you can run an entire business actually from a mobile device. And those are the types of tools that we've ensured that we've linked into to enable small businesses to thrive.
Yeah, work from anywhere. It's no longer work from home, or live and work, depending on which way you want to view that particular scenario. But it's made us a lot more productive. PJ, a great pleasure chatting to you and sharing your insights into how the Sage Business Cloud Marketplace and the launch in South Africa is set to be such a game changer for small businesses in the country as we look to grow back better post the COVID pandemic. Cheers.
Great. Thank you for the time, Michael. Appreciate it.
That was PJ Bishop, Sage's Vice President for Partners, Accountants and Alliances for Africa and the Middle East, with Business Talk, owning it with Sage.